Last one today. Thursday, May 28th, 7th period, we're going to get into the last, well for you guys, the last talk period. I will tell you a couple of things. One, my other classes, I do bonus talks tomorrow, where I go through and I give other little stories, like the first fight I got into when I was in junior high with me and another kid. And so I do that story and along with a couple other ones. So if you want to go back and listen to them and be entertained, you're more than welcome to. If you could care less, then you can move on from there too. If you've heard the different comments and stories about today, a couple things with it. One, I don't believe in emotion. Two, as far as emotion from the people in here, it goes from class to class. Some classes, it hits them hard. Some classes, it doesn't. If we get to the class period and there's no emotion, it's fine. If we get to the class period and you guys have emotion, then you're all weak, horrible people. And so it'll be fine, and we'll go forward from there. Oftentimes, it'll change depending on who's in the room. Both the students, my seventh graders I have in the room, it'll depend on what stories I'm telling that connect, because I change stories each class period. And then the other thing, oftentimes, it'll be the 8th graders that are in my room too, because sometimes I have 8th graders who come back and talk to me, and when I hit some of these stories, I know what's going on in their lives, and so some of those stories hit a little harder. And so if I don't show emotion, then it's okay. If you don't show emotion, it's okay. So don't freak out if we get to go through. That's my goal. My goal is we get through this with no emotion whatsoever, and we get to go home and just high-five each other. Yesterday, where did I leave off with you guys, just so I can wrap that one up speedy-wise?
You got hand on your shoulder.
No, that was yesterday.
You got arrested.
So, did I get through the beer?
No, you got arrested. You got arrested.
So,
You were sitting in the office or something, and your
Looking
mom.
at the monitor.
That was
you like
Like you went back to
No, they lifted it up
You went on the
and
curb.
they
You
said
went
that
back
and they were
and
saying.
handcuffed on the curb?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought I was wrapped. So I'm just going to do the speedy wrap up just so I can sort of solve that one real quick. And we can start off with happy thoughts, because me being arrested is a happy thought. From there, I was sitting on the curb. One of the things I remember is looking up and seeing, my dorm was 14 stories tall. And I looked up and I saw on like the 11th floor, which was the floor I lived on, all the lights on and people in the windows looking down at me and waving and laughing. And that was my friends who were up there that I was supposed to be throwing the party for. They were sad, not for me, but for all the beer that was being confiscated. And I remember the fact that they were upset about that, but they kept waving at me, and I could not wave back because of my handcuffs, which I was waving at them with one finger. They just couldn't see it. And so the cops came and eventually got me, and I got put in the back of a cop car and taken to the police station. I did get a mugshot, which does not exist today, because if it did, I would definitely show it to you. But at the time, I was not thinking, hey, this is something I can show to students years from now. At the time, I was thinking, I want this mugshot to burn in a hole forever and ever. But it was a picture of me doing this, looking really upset. I didn't have to go into jail, because apparently it wasn't a bad enough crime for that. I just got the fingerprinting and stuff like that and then kicked out. And I remember I had to go talk to my parents. But being 18 and in college, I didn't have to tell them right away. I could wait a couple weeks until I went home for Thanksgiving break, and I waited until they were all full of turkey and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, let's talk. And they're like, what's up? I was like, remember that time when I was 14 and I got arrested? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, did it again. And they're like, that's not funny. I'm like, it's true. And so I got to share with them. I got to use the words, Mom and Dad, I got arrested again. Which is a phrase that I hope none of you ever have to say. One, because it means you've been arrested, and then two, the again means it was the second time. But with my family history, drug and alcohol abuse, I had a tough time convincing my parents that I got arrested for alcohol charges, but I didn't drink. Because they kept asking, they're like, so how long have you been drinking? And I was like, I don't drink. And they're like, hun, you have to admit you have a problem before we can get you help. And I was like, I don't drink. And they're like, no one has that much beer and doesn't drink. So I'm like, I'm just an idiot. They're like, no one's that big of an idiot. I'm like, I'm that big of an idiot. And eventually they required me inviting friends over, and my friends had to convince my parents that I was an idiot, which is a really awkward situation to be in. But they were like, no, Mr. and Mrs. Brovicast, he's just an idiot. They're like, really? Oh, thank God our son's an idiot. And so the fact that I didn't have a drug problem. But the court doesn't care. because when you get arrested for drug and alcohol, you have to go to rehab. So I got to go to alcohol rehab classes, even though I did not drink, which is a very strange experience to go in there and go to classes about why you shouldn't drink when I didn't drink at the time. But it was an interesting experience to go through. I tell you those stories the last 2 days for a number of reasons. One of them is that by telling you those stories, I get to have control over them. Part of life is making mistakes and screwing up, and everyone screws up. It's what happens in life. Screwing up is good, because screwing up is what makes you a better person. If you never make mistakes, you never become better. You never become a stronger person. And what's the issue is when you let your mistakes control you, and you let your mistakes define who you are. And for a long time, I let those mistakes define who I was. The fact that I considered myself a kid that got arrested more than once and picked up by the police. And I didn't think of myself as a good person for a long time because of that. But by taking control of those and telling you guys those stories, it takes away the power of them. And those mistakes no longer control me as much. And now I get to control them. And I also tell you these because I want you to learn from them. If I can go through these things and have you learn from the mistakes I made, then that helps. And I've had kids tell me that I should start the year doing these, that this is what I should open up with as like the very beginning of the school year, because like, they're so much fun, we enjoy being in there, you should tell us those stories because we love it. And I can't do that. I can't start a year with these stories. And it's not because I'm embarrassed of them, because I obviously record them and post them on YouTube. And it's not because I'm worried about how you're going to see me, because obviously my 8th graders have heard these stories and it's not affected their viewpoint of me. The reason I don't start the year with these stories is I have not earned your respect yet. And what this year has been is me earning your respect as a teacher. Because you don't respect every teacher. Because you shouldn't respect every teacher. Respect is something you have to earn from people. Trust is something you have to earn from people. And this school year has been me earning your respect and your trust. Me trying to prove to you that I'm someone whose words should have weight. Because that's what I'm going to get to in a moment, is that you get to choose who influences your life. And I've wanted to spend this year being the person that gets to influence your life. Trying to convince you that I'm a person that you should have some power over you. And I hope that I've done that. The reason I think I have is because I've just spent several days telling you stories about my childhood. And you did not riot and attack me with pitchforks. And I think if another teacher said, hey, I want to spend the last week of school telling you stories about my childhood, I think you'd probably throw bricks at them. Because the last thing you would want to hear is stories of their childhood. But that didn't happen when I told you I was going to do that. And I believe that's because, for some of you, I've earned trust and respect from you. Which is why I set up my room the way I do. Everything I do in my room is to earn your respect and trust, which I know doesn't always seem that way. It seems like a lot of what I do is just to be mean to you, but it's not. There's a purpose behind everything I do. Imagine with me for a moment that you have a friend that you care deeply about, a friend that you hang out with, a friend that you've known for a while, and this friend tells you that they're making choices. They're going down a path that you know is bad things are going to happen. Thank you. And this friend tells you, and you see the choices this friend is making, and you know nothing good is going to happen. That this friend is set to put themselves through pain, and you know that if you see your friend go through this pain, it's going to hurt you. Because when people you care about are hurt, it hurts you. The issue is, that friend for me is you guys. I know I tell you that I hate children, but I don't. And I think that's part of that respect I earned from you this year is you figured out that I don't hate kids. It's just what I pretend to do because I think it makes the class much more entertaining. But it's just the opposite of hating kids. But here's the problem. When you care about people and you see them making poor choices, it hurts. When you see them doing things that you know is going to lead to them being unhappy in life, it's hard to not try and prevent that. And I set up my room and I run my room in a way to try and prevent unhappiness for you, which I know causes unhappiness now. But my class, it doesn't matter. It doesn't count in the long run. It's a junior high 7th grade English class. Regardless of what grade you get in here, it does not affect you long term. And I fully understand that. What you get from my class this year had nothing to do with your knowledge of English. It was there a little bit. But what I wanted you to get from my room went beyond that. What my goal was for you was beyond that. Because what happens for me is I have these kids who come back and talk to me, my 8th graders who come back and share stories of their life, high schoolers, and that's who I was texting at the beginning of class, was a high schooler who's wanting to come back and talk to me today, and I was trying to make time for him, who come back and tell me these stories about their lives, and I've now taught long enough that when they come back and talk to me, I still see them as 7th graders. I see them as high schoolers. I see your counselors, I see them as high schoolers, but I see them as 7th graders, because I knew them at that stage for a whole year in my room. And what happens is, when I look at you guys, I see 2 paths in front of you. I see a path where you make the right choice, and I see a path where you make the wrong choice. I see a path in front of you where you come back and talk to me, and you have taken my words to heart, and you have done well with your life. You have become the person I want you to be. You are a counselor for me in high school, and you come back and tell me about all the wonderful things you've done and why I should be proud of you. Because I have kids who come back and we have those conversations, and it's wonderful. Especially my kids who were tough when they were in 7th grade. When they come back and tell me about how their life has gotten better, and how 7th grade was a rough year, and how they made poor choices, and how they knew they were a turd, but the fact that they changed, and when they got to high school that they were better. And they come back and talk to me, and it's partly why I teach. There's conversations like that, and what those conversations mean to me. But I also have conversations with kids who come back, and their life doesn't go that way. Who tell me the stories of, how they get arrested because they're smoking pot behind the Best Buy in Noblesville. About my girl who is pregnant and going to have a baby when she's in high school. About my kid who dropped out because he just couldn't get his head around doing homework anymore. My kid who has rage problems and had to go to an alternative school. And those kids come back and talk to me also. And when I see you guys in my class, I see both paths in front of you, for a lot of you. And what gets tough, sorry, it'll pass in just a moment. Puppies and rainbows, small kittens, fluffy children. Is that when you care about someone, you want them to take the right path. But I can't make you make that choice. I can't make you go down that path that causes you less pain. I can want you to go down that path. I can try to guide you, but ultimately, you're the only one that can make that choice. And that's what hurts. You can't ask someone to care about you, and then not have part of that caring be them get hurt when you make poor choices. Because that's what caring about someone is. You can't get upset if teachers don't care about you, if you hurt the people that care about you. And that's part of what the process of my classroom is. Just put on my desk, thank you. Is trying to help you go down the right path. And so I build my room around trying to do that. And I understand why kids make the choices they do a lot of times. Part of it is home life. Home life plays a big part of it. And it's not something you talk about a lot at school. And it's something we should talk about a lot more, because you spend a lot of time at home. And I understand that for some of you, home life isn't good. Home life is the opposite of good. Home life is bad. It's not a place that brings you happiness. It's not a place where good things happen. And when you have that, school's not important to you, because getting through life is important to you. Making it from one day to the next is important to you. And I understand that school isn't important to you. But on some level, I also know school has to have some importance to you, or there's unhappiness in front of you. Because you have to be able to finish school, whether you hate it or not. If not, you become the kid that drops out, and you become the kid who works fast food for the rest of your life. And I'm not saying that that's a horrible life. I'm just saying that I want more for you than that. Sorry. So, with the bad home life, you look around, you see kids in the classroom. And I don't mean this classroom, I mean just classrooms in general. And you see kids that you think are bad, kids that you think aren't good, that are messed up and have issues. And they might be. But what you have to realize is those kids grow up to be adults. And when they grow up to be adults, they have children. And when they have children, they don't magically become good parents. And I think that's something that kids don't understand. That they're bad parents. And if you don't have bad parents, that's good. If you have two parents in your house, and they're both home all the time, and they support you, and they tell you they love you, that's wonderful. It's one of the best things in the world. But you also have to understand there's a lot of kids who don't have that, who don't have two parents, who, even if they do have two parents, their parents never tell them they love them. And what a painful place it is to be in the world when you don't have an adult that tells you that they love you. It hurts. Just life in general hurts. And you need to understand those people around you exist. And I understand that that exists for some of you. And for some kids, home is a place where, if parents aren't abusive, parents are at the very least unsupportive and say nothing but negative things. Talk down to them because of their body type, because they're too skinny or they're too fat, or talk down to them because they're ugly, or because the parents just don't like them and the parents have their own issues. And kids, it makes them unhappy. And a lot of kids don't have someone at home who yells at them. And I know being yelled at by a parent seems like a bad thing, but it's not. Being yelled at by an adult is a good thing, because it means that adult loves you. When a parent yells at you because you failed a class, or yells at you because you have a detention, yells at you because you got in trouble, that's a parent's way of saying that they love you and they want more for you, that they expect more from you. When a teacher yells at you and says that your behavior is unacceptable, when they say, this is not the grade that you should have, they say that because they care, because they expect more out of you. And that's a good thing. The problem is, I have students who don't have anyone doing that for them. Whether it's a parent or teachers, every adult in their life has accepted them as a failure. Every adult in their life says, this is it. This is all you have. You have nothing else. And that's scary. And I don't know who those kids are. I don't know which kid has that home life. I don't know which kid is experiencing that. So in my room, I treat you all equally. You make poor choices. I judge you on your behavior. I don't judge you on who you are. I respond to the behavior that you give me. And for some kids, I'm the only adult that holds them responsible. The only adult that lets them know I expect more from you. The only adult that tells them what you're giving me is not enough. When I keep making you stand, when I kick you out of my room, when I send you to my slow kid section, when I give you detentions for losing points, I do that because that's my way of letting you know I expect more from you, that I don't accept you as a failure. And for some kids, that's what they need from me, is to tell them that. I learned years ago, with the kids coming back to visit me, that my room exists for different reasons for different kids. Some kids who have everything going for them in their happy lives. My room is a place where you get to come in and just enjoy school for a day. You get to be here, you get to smile, you get to have a teacher that makes you laugh and that gets to make you enjoy things for a little bit. And for you, I'm absolutely happy to do that. It's why I enjoy teaching. For other kids, they just need an adult to not treat them like they're a horrible person. They need an adult who will smile at them, who will listen when they want to talk, who will respond to them, and who will treat them like they're human, because other people at the school don't. And for those kids, I'm happy to play that role too, because I understand that's what you need. For others of you, it's discipline, because you don't have that person in your life who's yelling at you, saying that you need to be responsible for your choices. And for you, I do that also. And I will continue to do so, and I will continue to have high standards for you and say the fact that I don't accept you failing, because I know you can do better than that. And then for other kids, I'm just an ear that will listen. Because some kids just need to be heard. They need someone that they can talk to and know that they won't be judged, because I won't judge you. I think if there's anything I hope that you've learned from me this year, that some of you irritated me, you made poor choices, and you made me grumpy, but I don't judge you. And I won't judge you in the future. It's not how I act, it's not how I'm wired. I'll judge your behavior, and I'll let you know your behavior disappoints me. But there's a separation between behavior and who you are. And the fact that some of those people, they just need someone to listen to them. And I offer that. The fact that if you need to talk, if you need someone to listen to you, that I'm happy to do that for you also. Whether it be after school, whether it be you just sending me a message, I'll respond to it. I'll always make time. I posted last night on Instagram the picture of my keyboarding letters, because I read every keyboarding letter that I get. I keep every letter that any student gives me. Going back 16 years, I kept them all. I don't know why any teacher wouldn't keep all of those. And part of that is the idea that I'll make time. If you ever need me to make time, that I will do so and that I will listen for you. Talking about home life, I want you to understand the things to take from my room. So much I want to say, so little time. Let's do this. When you guys see me, you see me as a happy person. And the fact that I smile a lot, and the fact that I try to make other people smile, and I try to bring happiness to other people. And that's a choice that I make. It is a conscious choice that I use to control my life. Because I learned when I was a kid that we get to choose our life, and we get to choose who controls our lives around us. Because when I was young, I was bullied a lot when I was in junior high and when I was younger, because I was skinny. I was a book nerd, twiggy little arms. I had bad acne when I got into 8th grade and into high school, and kids would make fun of me. And bullies made fun of me all the time. And I remember one day a kid named Chad made fun of me in PE class. It still sits with me. And he made fun of my acne, called me a pizza face, and in front of girls so that the girls would laugh at me, and they did. And it hurt. I remember being at home that day and talking to my mom because she saw that I was upset, and she asked me what was bothering me. And I told her the fact that I was made fun of at school that day. And the conversation my mom had with me, she said, "So this kid, Chad, is he a friend of yours?" I said, "No, I don't like him." She goes, "Is he important?" I go, "No, he's popular, but I don't know if he's important." She goes, "Do you like him?" I go, "No, I don't even like him. He's kind of a turd." And she goes, "Well, the girls." She goes, "Do you like them?" I go, "They're pretty, but I don't know them. I don't know if I like them." And she goes, "Huh?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Why do you care?" I said, "What?" She goes, "Why do you care what he says about you and if those girls laugh?" I said, "Because he's popular and it made me feel bad." She goes, "Why do you let him make you feel bad?" And I didn't understand it at the time. But what my mom was telling me was that you get to control who affects your life. Because I spent the last year proving to you, or at least trying to prove to you, that my words should have weight and that you should respect what I want to tell you. But you choose who influences you. You choose whose words control who you are. As humans, we are defined by other people's opinions of us. It's just what we do. But here's the trick. You get to pick which kids, which adults, which people influence your thought about yourself. And I didn't understand it at the time because it didn't make sense to me. It was just an old person talking. But what she was trying to tell me was, those kids, Chad and those girls, weren't important. There's no reason they should have some kind of impact over me. In junior high, I wanted to be popular really badly. Because all I wanted was to be popular. As a nerd, I thought being popular would solve everything. I figured it would answer every issue I had if I could just be popular. And so I dedicated my junior high years to being popular. I joined football and wrestling because that's what popular kids did. I wore the clothes that popular kids wore. I went to the places where popular kids hung out. I stood behind the popular kids just on the off chance that their popularity would rub off on me. Everything I wanted was to be popular. And it didn't work. But I went so far as to make choices that I regret to this day. And they're just little choices, but it's the little things that stick with you. And I had a friend named John Montgomery. And John Montgomery was a friend of mine who was as dorky as I was, but he didn't care about being popular. And he and I would play G.I. Joes together, little action figures. And in junior high, I loved it, and it was fun, and I got a kick out of it. But I knew the cool kids didn't play G.I. Joes, and the cool kids didn't do that kind of thing. So I decided this was something I was going to have to stop doing, because that's not something the cool kids did. And I made up my mind I had to stop hanging out with John, because John was not cool, and John was holding me back, is what I told myself. So I decided to cut John out of my life. But I wasn't brave when I did it. I made my younger brother do it for me, because I was a weak person. I waited till John called one day, and then I had my brother tell John that I was busy, and I couldn't play. And whenever John called, I made my brother talk to him and come up with an excuse about why I couldn't be there. And what I did to John was bad. But what haunts me today is how my younger brother looked at me when I made him do that. And realizing what I was doing was wrong, but I did it anyway, because I wanted to be popular so badly. And I wish I could tell you that that was when I changed and I realized that I was making poor choices, but it wasn't. I continued, and I kept going and trying to be popular, but that continued to haunt me, as it has ever since then. And I remember one day on the bus, riding home from school, and I was sitting behind two popular girls who I really wanted to hang out with because they were popular and everyone liked them, and I knew if I could hang out with them, then I'd be popular too. And I was resting my head against the seat in front of me, listening to their conversation, trying to figure out what they were talking about so I could figure out how I could work into my conversation so that we could bond about it. And I was listening to them, and they were making fun of another kid and just being vicious and mean. And as I listened to them, I had an epiphany. An epiphany is where you have a moment of clarity where everything makes sense. And I realized I didn't like these two people. They were horrible people. They were not nice people. They weren't people I should be friends with. And I was throwing my life away to hang out with people that I didn't even like. I was getting rid of friends who liked me for who I was to hang out with people who didn't care about me. And I decided on that day to change. I was 14.